First contact deception. The signal came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Dr. Sarah Chen was halfway through her first cup of coffee when SETI's quantum arrays lit up like a Christmas tree. At first, she thought it was another false positive. They'd had dozens since upgrading to the new quantum detection system. But this was different. The pattern was too precise, too structured to be natural. James. She called out to her colleague, Dr. James Martinez, who was dozing in his chair. I think you need to see this. The signal was elegant in its simplicity. Prime numbers, followed by what appeared to be a three-dimensional mathematical model of a double helix, a universal language speaking across the stars. Within hours, observatories worldwide confirmed it. Humanity had received its first verified extraterrestrial contact. What followed was 3 months of careful communication, mathematical exchanges growing increasingly complex until finally, the visitors announced their intention to arrive. They called themselves the Veloxians, and they came bearing gifts of knowledge and technology. The first ship appeared in high Earth orbit exactly when they said it would. Its design defied conventional physics, a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around itself, beautiful and terrifying in its implications. The world watched through telescopes and live feeds as humanity's first alien visitors made their presence known. Admiral Helena Santos stood in the Pentagon's newly established Extraterrestrial Affairs Division, watching the feeds with narrowed eyes. 25 years in naval intelligence had taught her to trust her instincts, and something about this felt wrong. The Veloxians were too perfect, too accommodating. What's the status of Project Sanctuary? She asked Colonel David Wright, her chief of operations. On schedule, Admiral. The lunar facilities are fully operational, and the Mars base will be ready within the month. If things go south, we'll be ready. Santos nodded, watching as the Veloxian ambassador's shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere in a display of brilliant light. Let's hope we don't need it, but keep everything running dark. If they're as advanced as they seem, we can't risk them detecting our preparations. The first meeting was held at the United Nations. Ambassador Zix of the Veloxians cut an imposing figure, 3 meters tall, with iridescent scales that shifted colors as they moved and 4 arms that gestured with unsettling grace. Their translator devices rendered their complex harmonic language into perfect Earth standard. We come in peace, Zix announced to the assembled leaders of Earth. Our civilization has watched yours for some time, and we believe you are ready to join the galactic community. We offer you clean energy technology, medical advances beyond your imagination, and faster-than-light travel. But while the world celebrated, a select few were noticing the discrepancies. Dr. Chen, now working with a classified task force, found impossible gaps in the Veloxians' transmission data. Admiral Santos' agents reported strange energy signatures from the Veloxian ships that didn't match their claimed peaceful purpose. In secure facilities deep beneath the Earth's surface and in hidden bases throughout the solar system, humanity quietly prepared for the possibility that their new friends weren't friends at all. They reverse-engineered every scrap of technology the Veloxians shared, looking for weaknesses. They developed countermeasures for technologies they hoped they'd never have to face. The Veloxians never noticed. Their arrogance was too complete, their belief in their superiority too absolute. They saw what they expected to see. A young, naive species eager to receive the gifts of their benevolent visitors. They didn't notice the quantum entanglement computers being built in abandoned mine shafts. They missed the new satellites going up, disguised as debris. They failed to detect the weapons being developed using principles they themselves had inadvertently revealed. As Ambassador Zix prepared for the grand ceremony, where they would officially welcome Earth into their galactic community, Admiral Santos met with the Joint Chiefs in a bunker 2 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains. "The Phantom Fleet is ready," she reported. "The moment they show their true colors, we can have 500 ships deployed from the dark side of the moon. The quantum defense grid is operational, and Project Zeus is armed and waiting. Let's pray we don't need any of it. the chairman replied. But as they would soon discover, humanity's paranoia was about to be justified. The mask falls. The grand ceremony was held in the newly constructed Galactic Peace Center in Geneva. Its crystalline dome, built with Veloxian technology, sparkled under the summer sun. Below it sat 10,000 of Earth's most influential people, all gathered to witness humanity's official welcome into the galactic community. Dr. Sarah Chen sat in the front row, her quantum tablet hidden in her lap. For the past week, she and her team had been detecting unusual energy signatures from the Veloxian ships, patterns that matched theoretical weapon signatures. Now, as Ambassador Zix approached the podium, her tablet was picking up something new. "My dear human friends," Zix began, their scales shifting to a warm golden hue. "Today marks the beginning of a new era for your species." In her secure command center, Admiral Santos watched multiple feeds simultaneously. Something was happening in high orbit, subtle distortions in space that their new quantum sensors were barely detecting. "Status report," she demanded. "Multiple hyperspace signatures detected." "Admiral," her tactical officer reported. "They're trying to mask them with some kind of quantum field, but our sensors are picking them up. Big ships, hundreds of them." Santos straightened in her chair. "Send the alert. Authorization code Phoenix Alpha 0. All units prepare for contingency Theta." Back in Geneva, Dr. Chen's tablet suddenly lit up with warnings. She looked up at Ambassador Zix, who was still speaking about peace and cooperation, and saw something in their posture change. Their scales shifted to a deeper, more ominous color. "And now," Zix's voice took on a different tone, "it is time for humanity to accept its proper place in the galaxy." The air above the Peace Center shimmered as dozens of Veloxian warships decloaked. Their weapons ports were already open, energy weapons charging. Panic erupted in the crowd as people realized what was happening. But Ambassador Zix never got to give the order to fire. "Quantum defense grid. Activate." Admiral Santos's voice rang out through the emergency broadcast system. "Authorization code. Humanity stands." The seemingly decorative patterns in the Peace Center's dome suddenly lit up with impossible energy. A quantum shield materialized, protecting the thousands of gathered humans. Similar shields appeared over every major city on Earth, their energy patterns so advanced that even the Veloxians seemed surprised. "How?" Ambassador Zix's translator struggled with their shock. "This technology is beyond your level." Dr. Chen stood up, her tablet now projecting holographic tactical displays. "Did you really think we'd just accept everything you showed us without studying it, without improving it? Humanity has a long history of preparing for the worst while hoping for the best." In orbit, the Veloxian invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace, over 1,000 ships strong. But they weren't met with the helpless planet they expected. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by hundreds of human vessels emerging from hidden bases on the Moon, from beneath the surface of Mars, and from what they had dismissed as space debris. "This is Admiral Helena Santos of the Earth Defense Force," her voice transmitted across all frequencies. "You came to our home under the pretense of peace, planning to enslave us. You thought we were primitive, naive, and helpless. That was your first mistake. The human ships were unlike anything the Veloxians had expected. Where their own vessels were elegant and standardized, humanity's ships were diverse, practical, and bristling with weapons that shouldn't have been possible. Your second mistake," Santos continued, "was giving us access to even a fraction of your technology. We've spent the last 3 months not just learning from it, but improving it. Evolution taught humanity one vital lesson: adapt or die. And we're very, very good at adapting." Ambassador Zix raised their ceremonial staff, which began transforming into a weapon. But before they could use it, they found themselves trapped in a localized quantum stasis field, technology they recognized as a crude version of their own, but modified in ways they hadn't thought possible. "And your final mistake," Dr. Chen said, standing before the trapped ambassador, was assuming that our internal divisions made us weak. The truth is, nothing unites humans quite like a common threat. As if to emphasize her point, the quantum defense grid fully activated. A network of satellites, hidden in plain sight, began generating a field that made the Veloxians' most advanced shielding technology look primitive. The invasion fleet opened fire, their energy weapons powerful enough to crack a planet's crust. But their beams scattered harmlessly against humanity's shields. The counterattack began seconds later. Human ships moved in patterns that defied conventional space combat doctrine. They had studied how the Veloxians fought and developed entirely new tactics. Quantum torpedoes phased through Veloxian shields. Gravity weapons created localized singularities that torn their ships apart. And most devastating of all, human AI systems adapted to each Veloxian countermeasure in real time. "This is your only warning," Admiral Santos transmitted to the Veloxian fleet. "You came in peace and chose war. Now you'll learn why throughout our history, even human fought human. We always saved our best innovations for defending against external threats." The battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy why you should never mistake kindness for weakness. Humanity's hidden hand. The Veloxian fleet commander, High Admiral Vexthor, watched in disbelief as his first wave of attacks dissipated against Earth's shields. The humans' level of technological advancement was impossible, unless they'd been preparing for this moment all along. "Launch the quantum disruptors," he ordered. "They cannot have counters for weapons we never showed them." Massive cannons emerged from the Veloxian dreadnoughts, charging with enough energy to tear holes in the fabric of space-time. But before they could fire, something extraordinary happened. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility known only as Nautilus Base, Dr. James Martinez activated humanity's most ambitious defense project. "Project Prometheus is online," he announced, his voice carrying to command centers worldwide. Quantum field stabilization at maximum. The ocean itself seemed to ripple as massive structures rose from the depths, facilities that had been hidden from even the Veloxians' most advanced sensors. From these emerged swarms of what looked like silver clouds, but were actually millions of quantum-locked nanomachines. "You're probably wondering how we hid all this," Admiral Santos transmitted to the Veloxian fleet. "The truth is, we didn't. We just made sure you saw exactly what you expected to see, a primitive species barely reaching for the stars. Your own arrogance did the rest." The nanite swarms surrounded Earth like a living shield, absorbing the quantum disruptor's energy and redirecting it through the planetary defense grid. Each attack by the Veloxians only made Earth's defenses stronger. In orbit, the battle transformed into something unprecedented. Human ships demonstrated combat techniques that defied traditional space warfare. They moved in chaotic patterns that somehow formed perfect attack formations, using debris and asteroids as both weapons and shields. "How are they coordinating like this?" Vexthor demanded, watching another squadron of his ships fall to the humans' impossible tactics. The answer came in the form of Dr. Chen's voice. "Did you think we wouldn't notice the quantum entanglement principles in your communication systems? We didn't just copy them, we evolved them. Our ships don't need to communicate. They think as one." The true extent of humanity's preparation became clear as more hidden facilities activated. The moon's dark side opened to reveal massive shipyards. Mars' polar ice caps split apart, unveiling missile batteries and energy weapon platforms. Even the asteroid belt came alive, rocks that had appeared natural revealing themselves as disguised weapon platforms. "You should have studied our history more carefully," Admiral Santos transmitted as she coordinated the defense. "Humans have always been at our most innovative when faced with existential threats. We took the basic principles you showed us and asked questions you never thought to ask." The Veloxian fleet's formation began to break as human ships demonstrated weapons that shouldn't have been possible. Quantum torpedoes that existed in multiple states simultaneously, making them impossible to dodge. Gravity lances that could temporarily increase local space-time curvature, turning the vacuum of space itself into a weapon. But the Veloxians weren't finished. From their flagship, Vexthor deployed their elite guard, cybernetically enhanced warriors in advanced battle suits. They began boarding human vessels, expecting to find easy prey. Instead, they encountered something worse. "You're not the only ones who can enhance biology," a human marine commander transmitted as her forces engaged the boarders. Humanity's own powered armor suits were crude by Veloxian standards, but they were augmented with something the aliens hadn't expected: adaptive neural interfaces that allowed humans to react at impossible speeds. In the Geneva Peace Center, Ambassador Zix remained trapped in the stasis field, watching as their invasion force was systematically dismantled by the very species they had planned to subjugate. "You're making a mistake," they warned Dr. Chen. "The Veloxian Empire spans galaxies. This is only the first wave." Dr. Chen smiled. "We're counting on it. You see, everything you're witnessing. The shields, the weapons, the tactics, these are just our first-generation defenses. We've been holding back our best innovations, waiting to see what else you might throw at us." As if to prove her point, a new class of human ships emerged from hyperspace. Their design was unlike anything seen before, incorporating principles that made the Veloxian scientists watching the battle question their understanding of physics. "We call them the Prometheus class," Admiral Santos announced. "They're what happens when human scientists stop trying to copy your technology and start reimagining what's possible. Would you like to see what they can do?" The new ships moved in ways that seemed to ignore the laws of physics, their hulls rippling with energy patterns that the Veloxian sensors couldn't even classify. They didn't just fight. They transformed the space around them into a weapon. High Admiral Vexthor watched as his mighty fleet was pushed back by forces he couldn't comprehend. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he never expected to experience while facing a supposedly primitive species: fear. The battle for Earth's orbit had become a testament to human ingenuity and determination. But as the Veloxian Empire prepared to send reinforcements, both sides knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had revealed some of its cards, but not all of them. The real question was, what other surprises did they have waiting? The counterstrike. The quantum communication channels aboard Earth's new flagship, the EDS Prometheus, hummed with activity as Admiral Santos reviewed the battle data. The initial defense of Earth had been successful, but intercepted Veloxian transmissions confirmed what they'd suspected: a larger fleet was coming. "Project Helios is ready, Admiral," Dr. Martins reported from his station. The scientist's hologram flickered with quantum interference, a side effect of the new communication technology they'd developed. "The solar array is fully charged." Santos nodded, her eyes on the tactical display showing the positions of Earth's forces throughout the solar system. The Veloxians had retreated to the outer edges of the system, regrouping and waiting for reinforcements. They still didn't understand that this was exactly what humanity had planned for. "Begin Operation Sunstrike," she ordered. "All ships, battle formations Delta through Kappa." "Dr. Chen, is the quantum entanglement drive ready?" Synchronized across all Prometheus-class vessels, Shen confirmed from her laboratory deep within Lunar Base Alpha. "The equations predict a 97% success rate for the jump. Though I should note, we've never attempted this with so many ships simultaneously." The plan was audacious, even by humanity's standards. While the Veloxians expected them to maintain a defensive position around Earth, humanity's forces would instead launch a massive coordinated strike using technology that hadn't existed 3 months ago. In the Geneva Peace Center, Ambassador Zix remained under guard, watching the preparations with growing unease. "Your species is young," they warned. "You don't understand the forces you're playing with. Quantum entanglement drives at this scale could tear apart the fabric of space-time." Dr. Martinez, who was monitoring the ambassador, smiled. "That's the difference between our species, Ambassador. You see limits. We see possibilities." The first phase of Operation Sunstrike began at dawn. The solar array, hidden within Mercury's orbit and powered by the concentrated energy of the sun itself, activated. It didn't fire a weapon. Instead, it created something the Veloxians had thought impossible: a controlled quantum field that encompassed the entire solar system. By now, you've noticed your faster-than-light communications aren't working, Admiral Santos transmitted to the Veloxian fleet. That's because we've changed the quantum state of local spacetime. Your reinforcements won't be arriving as quickly as you planned. In fact, they won't be arriving at all. High Admiral Vexthor's response was immediate and predictable. He ordered his remaining ships to charge the human fleet. But the Veloxians had already lost the initiative, and they didn't even know it. The Prometheus-class ships moved first, their quantum entanglement drives activating in perfect synchronization. Space itself seemed to twist as hundreds of Earth's most advanced vessels disappeared and reappeared simultaneously, surrounding the Veloxian fleet in a three-dimensional matrix of precisely calculated positions. Fascinating, isn't it? Dr. Chen's voice carried across all frequencies. We took your basic teleportation technology and asked ourselves, what if we could entangle not just particles, but entire regions of space? What if we could make ships that don't need to travel through space because they can make any 2 points in space the same point? The implications hit the Veloxian commanders too late. Humanity hadn't just developed countermeasures to their technology. They'd fundamentally reimagined how space warfare could work. The second phase of Operation Sunstrike revealed another surprise. The debris field from the earlier battle, which the Veloxians had dismissed as wreckage, suddenly came alive. Each piece was actually a quantum-locked weapon platform, waiting in plain sight. You should have wondered, Admiral Santos transmitted, why we let so much debris float freely after the first battle. Your sensors saw what they expected to see: the aftermath of combat. What they actually saw was us setting the board for the next phase. The Prometheus fleet and the debris platforms attacked simultaneously, but they didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they created overlapping fields of quantum distortion, turning the space around the Veloxian ships into a maze of temporal and spatial anomalies. Impossible, Vexthor whispered as he watched his ships lose cohesion, their advanced hulls unable to maintain structural integrity in space that no longer followed normal physical laws. No species could develop this level of quantum manipulation so quickly. You're wrong, Dr. Martins countered. We've had these theories for decades. We just lack the energy sources and baseline technology to implement them. You gave us that when you showed us your primitive, faster-than-light drives. The rest was just human ingenuity. The battle transformed into something unprecedented in the history of space warfare. Human ships danced through quantum-entangled space, while Veloxian vessels struggled to maintain their existence in regions where the constants of physics had become variables. But even as humanity pressed their advantage, Admiral Santos knew they had to move quickly. The quantum field preventing Veloxian reinforcements wouldn't last forever, and Earth had one final card to play. Something even their own scientists weren't entirely sure they could control. In her lunar laboratory, Dr. Chen made the final adjustments to Project Omega, humanity's ultimate weapon and quite possibly their greatest gamble. Admiral, she reported, we're ready for the final phase. Though I should warn you, once we begin, there's no guarantee we can stop it. Santos looked at the tactical display one last time. Everything had led to this moment. The Veloxians gave us no choice, she replied. Sometimes the only way to ensure peace is to demonstrate the ultimate consequences of war. Begin the final countdown. As Project Omega powered up, drawing energy from a dozen hidden solar collectors throughout the system, humanity prepared to show the galaxy why underestimating them had been the Veloxian Empire's final mistake. Victory through unity. The heart of Project Omega pulsed beneath the lunar surface, a massive quantum reactor unlike anything ever built. Dr. Chen watched as energy readings climbed past theoretical limits, the culmination of humanity's greatest scientific achievement, and their most terrifying weapon. All personnel, clear the quantum chamber, she ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. Project Omega is approaching critical threshold. In orbit, The battle had reached a stalemate. The remaining Veloxian ships, though battered, maintained a defensive formation around their flagship. High Admiral Vex Thor had finally realized that his enemy was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. "This is your final chance," Admiral Santos broadcast. "Surrender now, and we can end this without further bloodshed." Vex Thor's response came swiftly. "The Veloxian Empire does not surrender to primitives. Our main fleet will arrive within hours, and then you will understand the true meaning of technological superiority." At that moment, Dr. Martinez's voice cut through all frequencies. "Admiral, quantum sensors detect multiple ruptures forming at the edge of the system. The Veloxian reinforcements found a way through our quantum barrier. On every display, thousands of new signatures appeared. The Veloxian main fleet had arrived. Tens of thousands of warships, including vessels that dwarfed anything seen in the conflict so far." "So be it," Santos said quietly. "Dr. Chen, initiate Project Omega. Authorization code: Humanity's Dawn." Deep beneath the lunar surface, Project Omega activated, but it wasn't a weapon, at least not in the conventional sense. Instead, it was something far more profound, a device capable of rewriting the fundamental laws of physics within a controlled space. "What you're about to witness," Dr. Chen transmitted to the Veloxian fleet, "is the result of humanity asking one simple question. What if the constants of the universe aren't actually constant?" The quantum reactor's energy output surged beyond measurable levels. Space itself began to ripple around the moon as Project Omega created something unprecedented, a bubble of altered reality where humanity's theories about quantum manipulation could be fully realized. Inside this bubble, Earth's ships began to change. The quantum entanglement drives evolved in real time, adapting to the new physics. The Prometheus-class vessels transformed, their structures flowing like liquid metal as they achieved forms that should have been impossible. "By the eternal void," Vex Thor whispered as he watched the transformation. "What have they done?" "We've changed the game," Admiral Santos answered. "In this space, we're not bound by the same rules you are. Every law of physics you rely on is now subject to our control." The human fleet moved with impossible grace through the altered space, their weapons operating on principles that the Veloxian sensors couldn't even detect. But more importantly, their ships were adapting, learning, evolving with each passing moment. Ambassador Zix, still watching from Geneva, finally understood. "Your species, you weren't just preparing for war. You were preparing to evolve beyond it." "That's the irony," Dr. Chen replied. "We never wanted this conflict, but by forcing us to defend ourselves, you pushed humanity to achieve something we might have taken centuries to discover otherwise." The battle that followed defied description. Human ships phased through Veloxian weapons fire, appeared in multiple places simultaneously, and wielded energy in ways that made advanced technology indistinguishable from magic. The altered space-time bubble expanded, encompassing more of the solar system, bringing more of the Veloxian fleet under humanity's new rules. But it was what happened next that truly demonstrated why humanity had always been more than they appeared. As the Veloxian ships began to fall, Admiral Santos gave an unexpected order. All ships switched to capture protocols. Minimal casualties. Even in their moment of absolute victory, humanity chose restraint over vengeance. The Prometheus fleet used their control over local physics to disable rather than destroy their enemies, systematically dismantling the greatest armada the Veloxian Empire had ever assembled. High Admiral Vex Thor, watching his invincible fleet rendered helpless, finally gave the order to surrender. As Earth's ships surrounded his flagship, he asked one question: "Why show mercy now?" Admiral Santos' response came as she transported directly onto his bridge, a feat that would have been impossible hours earlier. "Because the true measure of a species isn't their technology or their military might. It's their capacity to rise above the cycle of violence, even when given every reason not to." In the aftermath, as the quantum bubble dissipated and normal physics reasserted itself, Humanity demonstrated another trait that the Veloxians hadn't expected: the wisdom to use their victory constructively. Instead of demanding reparations or territory, Earth's leaders proposed a new kind of peace, one based on mutual respect and the understanding that the galaxy was large enough for all species to pursue their own paths to advancement. "Your mistake," Dr. Chen explained to Ambassador Zix as they prepared to sign the new peace accords, "wasn't underestimating our technology. It was underestimating our humanity." The Veloxian Empire, for the first time in its long history, found itself treating with a younger species as equals. And as news of the battle spread throughout the galaxy, other civilizations began to look at humanity in a new light, not as primitives to be conquered, but as pioneers who had dared to question the very foundations of reality. Admiral Santos, standing at the window of the rebuilt Peace Center, watched the sun rise over a changed Earth. The stars above no longer represented distant mysteries, but new frontiers for human innovation and exploration. "Ready for what comes next?" Dr. Martinez asked, joining her at the window. She smiled, thinking of the quantum equations already suggesting new possibilities. "That's the thing about humanity, isn't it? We're always ready for what comes next, because whatever it is, we'll face it together." Above them, the first joint human-Veloxian research vessels prepared to explore the boundaries of known space, carrying with them the greatest lesson of the conflict. True strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when not to use it. The end.